Welcome to Reshair on ESPN 730. For the next hour, your host, Chris Reshaar, will bring fresh air to your financial needs. Excite, educate, and empower you to make sound financial decisions. Chris is a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with Movement Mortgage, equal housing lender, originator license number 117266. Now, here's your host, Chris Reshaar.
Welcome to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshaar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. If you have never listened to Reshair Radio, let me tell you a little bit of what it's about. So every week, we air a show here in the Charlotte area that really focuses on finances, real estate, mortgage, whatever it might be, something that has to do with your financial life and you growing your financial life in some way, shape, or form. We bring on expert contributors who sponsor the show that come on a regular basis. And we also bring in local guests that really have their thumb on what's happening in the local marketplace. So today I'm really excited about our show. As our goal is really to excite, educate, and empower Charlotte teens to make sound financial decisions. We're really going to be talking with both an expert contributor and special guest here. Where we're going to be talking about the home inspection process when you go to buy a home, and kind of the repairs that come along with, hey, we found that there are issues as a result of learning what we found in the home inspection. So anyway, we're going to get into that a little bit later in the show. But what I really want to do is take a quick minute and introduce our expert contributor, Preston Sandlin with Home Inspection Carolina, and Tyler DiPretero. Did I get that right, Tyler?
You got it exactly
All right.
Excellent.
Yeah, his name is a little hard, folks, but we got to laugh if I say it wrong, you have to laugh with me. And Tyler, you are a realtor with the Stephen Cooley team at Keller Williams.
Yep,
is that right?
Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group at Keller Williams. That's right.
Thank you. So before we sort of get into our theme, I want to make sure our listeners know a little bit about the both of you. Preston, as I always say, is a repeat offender, right? He's back and sponsoring the show. He always brings great material. He has a record. That's right. So, Preston, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you, your company, and what you specialize in?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. I own Home Inspection Carolina, and we operate here in North Carolina and South Carolina, probably about a 25, 30-mile radius of Charlotte. And we do home inspections, termite inspections, radon testing. We can also test your pool, well and water, septic, and that sort of thing. Actually, we sub the septic out. But, we just want to protect people when they buy the house. It's their biggest purchase of most people's lives and the biggest investment of their lives. And we're excited.
And it creates the most wealth in people's
absolutely.
lives, is their home.
Absolutely. And we're honored to be a part of that, and we also want to protect the people from unknown things down the road. That's pretty much
The
what
surprises, right?
Yes.
It's your friends in crawl spaces. Isn't that another tagline?
There should be some Garth Brooks song that
Yes,
friends
absolutely.
in crawl spaces and
Exactly.
low spaces or something. I don't know.
So before we sort of slide over to Tyler, tell us, just out of curiosity, what are some of the things that strike you the most that you discovered during the home inspection process that are memorable?
Besides the pictures you share on Facebook.
Oh, he shares awesome. And by the way, if you don't like his Home Inspection Carolina on Facebook, you should, because there's all kinds of great stuff he shares. But go ahead, share a couple of those things with us, Preston.
Oh, well, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I have like
Most memorable. You got to have a couple most memorable.
well, grass growing up from the baseboards.
Okay.
All kinds of. I don't even know.
Wait,
where
that's
to
a problem?
Some of them I probably can't even say on the radio, but
Yeah,
that's the problem. Trying to think
what
of
you
one.
found at the home inspection. Got it.
Yeah, I actually do a home inspector podcast, and that's one of the questions. And boy, you should hear some of the stuff. I mean, there's this guy up in the Northeast that I interviewed him, and he was up in New Hampshire somewhere. Anyway, he inspected a basement, and he found like a hidden wall that went back to this room that went back to the Revolutionary War.
Whoa.
Wow,
That
that's really
probably
cool.
was the most awesome thing.
That's pretty memorable.
yeah. But I found all kinds of crazy stuff, teenage liquor bottles, you name it. I mean,
Right.
they throw it in the crawl space.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff that people think they have hidden, but maybe not when you get in there. So,
Right.
Well, cool. I just threw that at you. That was not planned,
Yeah,
but
no,
it
it's
is.
good.
It is fun to kind of hear and even see when if you're out on your page or your Facebook link or whatever. It's fun to see some of the stuff that you and your team put out. You definitely keep it fun for the real estate community and the public who utilizes your services. So,
Well, thank you.
all right, cool. So Tyler DiPretero, realtor, just under 3 years now here.
Yep.
with the Stephen Cooley real estate team, right, at Keller Williams?
Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group.
I'm going to get it by the end.
We can't say team anymore.
Group,
Yeah,
okay. Tyler, all right. So you've got just under 3 years experience now, and I know that you...
Tyler rocks, by the
yeah,
way.
he does
I had
rock.
a class with Tyler.
So,
he rocks, man.
He
made
told
that
me
class
he's a
fun,
single guy with a black lab, so he has plenty of time to plenty time to devote his life to helping anyone that wants to buy or sell real estate. Is that right?
That's right.
So that's pretty cool. So how did you get started in the business, Tyler?
Well, I was just looking for something different. Wasn't really happy where I was in my other job. A friend suggested I get into real estate, and I just made a decision to save money for the class. And then a couple of days later, I happened to cross Stephen Cooley. So I grew up in this area, recognized him, and I was like, I've got to talk to this guy. So
and Stephen Cooley is a top producing realtor, really not just inside the Keller Williams model, but really in our whole market.
right,
Very well
exactly.
known.
And so with that knowledge in my head, I said if I didn't go talk to him, I would probably regret that for the rest of my life. So I just went for it. Attacked him on the pickle aisle, and he was kind enough to share his email address with me, and then he gave me an interview the next day, and here I am.
There you go. Cool. And what do you like most about being a realtor?
What I like most about it is just being able to hopefully positively impact people's lives, just because it's such a huge chapter in everybody's lives. It's up there with birth, death, and getting a new job. It's a huge thing for people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. It does. And I think that the people that you work with, at least the some that I've worked with in conjunction with you, they just really put their faith and hope and trust in your abilities to help them achieve that dream. And it means a lot, right?
Yeah, so I'm very thankful for it.
So cool. Great. So I know that you've primarily focused on the South Carolina market,
Right.
even though the Stephen Cooley
Yes.
Realty
Absolutely.
actually does North and South Carolina.
Correct. Yes,
Right?
we've got agents in both states.
So we can cover, just for those of you that are listening here today, if you're hearing anything that you'd like, I want to make sure that you know that we put this show out to educate the community, but we also hope in return that our listeners will give us a call when someone is looking to buy or sell real estate in either two markets, North and South Carolina. So now's a good time to give you my phone number. The number is 704-277-4463. That's 277-4463. At any point you need our services, just shoot me a text message. Say, I need Tyler on my team, or I need Preston. We'll get you hooked up for a home inspection, get you hooked up to help you buy or sell real estate. Again, we're trying to add value to the community and educate you each and every week with great information. In return, we hope that you support us locally here inside the studio. So, all right, Tyler. So now that we've given our listeners a little bit about who you are, and as we feature you as a guest today, what would you tell us your perspective is on the housing market in the greater Charlotte market, even spilling over into that Rock Hill, Fort Mill, Lancaster, whatever, those markets?
Right. Well, I would say it is certainly a seller's market. There's very low inventory, but at the same time, it's still pretty good for buyers because interest rates are still low, about 4.25%. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's in that range. We're not allowed to quote rates in the marketplace, but yes, if you look at national averages, they're in that range.
So I would say it's perhaps normalized a bit for the season we're in. It's still a very good time to buy and sell.
But Tyler, in addition, what I'm hearing is aren't home values going up? So it's like a good time to buy.
It's certainly a good time to buy. Home values are gone up. I from the research that I've read, according to the Keller Williams experts, Gary Keller's got this huge team of analysts. They've more than recovered since the crash.
Right. And it seems like, we have some investment properties, and it seems like that, the stock market, nothing against that, but I can't control anything in the stock market. Mm-mm. Well, at least with real estate, you can improve the property.
Yes.
You can make it look nicer, and a lot of things you can do and
right.
control your
what
return.
What other investment can you live in, sleep in, and get money out of it later? You know.
Yeah, and the economy can change and the value can go up and down. But if you're talking about a rental property, you still have the ability to generate income, even if the value of the property goes down. Doesn't mean you can't get rent.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So it can still generate income. So I think you make a good point, Preston, there. So cool. So anything else? And I know what I'd like to do just here before we take a break is you had mentioned that there's low inventory and it's a seller's market, but what does that mean to a buyer today?
Well,
because we use these fancy terms, you understand, and not
Right.
everybody understands what that means.
so a seller's market, there being low inventory, just really means that there's not a whole lot of houses to choose from.
Okay.
So what that means to a buyer is that it can be a little bit more challenging for you. And it's very important as a buyer to get with Chris Reshatar and get pre-approved before you even go out, so that if you like
Sweet.
something, you can go ahead and pull the trigger on it when you get out there.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Thank you. This is great. Isn't this how
You got to move quickly.
And our listeners don't sniff any of this out, right? That we want to support each other here. But regardless, I just sometimes think that even in my world, we use sometimes lingo, but basically that if our listener needs to understand that they're looking to buy a house under $200,000 in the Charlotte market, there's just not much for sale, right? And so it makes it a little bit challenging to find the right home because there may be multiple people trying to get it. And if you're not aggressive, you might not get it.
Right.
Or the flip side is, if you're trying to sell the property, right? If there's low inventory, it also means you can probably get a good price for your home.
Exactly.
Right? But I did like how you mentioned that the bottom line is interest rates are still low. There's a lot of great first-time buyer programs that can get people in with little to no money out of pocket, in terms of assistance programs or no money down options that a lot of first-time buyers don't know about. But yeah, it's good for both. I really like that
so. I
perspective
really
because
think
it's not always bad for one and good for the other.
Mm-hmm.
It can be good for sellers and still good for buyers. So, all right. So let's. I know we're really getting ready to hit a break here shortly, but let me introduce the theme here. Tyler and I met, and I knew Preston was not going to be upset with the theme we came up with. He said, I really feel like my buyers need to understand, and in some cases sellers, depending on who you're representing, Tyler, need to better understand the home inspection process. And then once the home inspection is performed on that home, how we deal with repairs that may or may not need to be done on the property.
Right.
So that's really what we're going to be talking about. And then at that point, I was like, well, Preston needs to be in the studio for this show because this is your world. So what I think we're going to do is, before we really dive into this, I think we'll take a quick break here. It's a great time, and then we can really dive in instead of getting right in and then having to shut off. So let's take a quick break. Again, you're listening to Reshair Radio. We're here in the studio this morning with Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolina and Tyler DiPretero from Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group.
At Keller Williams, flawless.
At Keller
Well
Williams.
done.
I was going to get there. So please stay tuned. Again, we're talking about the home inspection process and repairs, all that fun stuff. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sports fans know that the key to winning the big game is going in prepared. Right now, houses are selling fast. So if you're in the market for a new home purchase, don't just be prepared, be Movement Mortgage prepared. Charlotte's leading mortgage lender, Chris Reshatar at Movement Mortgage, will tee you up with a free, fully underwritten, upfront pre-approval. Call Chris today at 704-277-4463. Go into the game prepared with Chris Reshatar of Movement Mortgage.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. As you know, the show is all about exciting, empowering, and educating Charlotteans to make great, sound financial decisions when it comes to finances, real estate, mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. So if you've never listened before, we hope you enjoy our show and listen every week. We're on at Sunday, 10 o'clock on ESPN here. We've got a couple of guests in the studio today. We've got Preston Sandlin, who is actually an expert contributor on the show on a regular basis with Home Inspection Carolina, and Tyler DiPretero from the Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group at Keller Williams.
You got it. That's it.
If you didn't listen to the first segment, you would probably laugh if you heard me say that properly, but it is a little tricky to get all that in there. But just before break, we were really sort of introing our major theme for the show today, which is really understanding the home inspection process when you're buying a home or even selling a home, and really how to deal with the repairs that might arise and or will arise. I don't know what your opinion is on that, Tyler, right? In terms of what we find on the home inspection. So, Preston, with you being our contributor here and this being your wheelhouse, why don't you kick us off and tell us, first of all, what is the home inspection report? What does our listener need to first understand about what that process is?
Okay. Well, thank you, Chris.
And its purpose, of course.
Yeah. Well, the purpose is, like Tyler's going to show them a house. They're going to make an offer on the house. based on, what they think the value is, the comps and all that stuff.
Exactly.
That's what they price it. So then our job is to come in and make sure there's no major thing they're going to have to pay right away. Because if there is, like if the foundation's, there's a $20,000 foundation problem, well, we either need to fix that or adjust the price.
Exactly.
Because we don't, we're all about protecting the client. And the client, a lot of times people get on the high end of their, what they can qualify
They can afford,
for.
right?
Happened to
Most
me.
people want to buy a nicer house than what they can afford.
And
It's
by
just
the way,
normal.
My wife and I, we qualified for this range, and of course, we looked at a house on the highest range. There's no way you can go back after that. So
Right, yeah,
I've learned
you can't.
that don't look at a house on the high end of your range because you'll never go down. But so my point is, you're already kind of maxed out. I mean, you budgeted everything. I mean, I don't know if maxed out. You just don't want an unforeseen cost hit you. Like $20,000, like whoa!
It's not
Wait a
tempting.
minute, we didn't see that one coming. So that's our job, is to protect the client and protect their investment. I think real estate is the best investment, the best thing somebody can do. But we're just there to make sure that they get what they're paying for, or the value of what they're paying for. And if not, let's figure out a way we can make that happen. And that's where Tyler, and his negotiation skills will probably come in.
Absolutely. And so you actually provide a written report. So what does that look like for the customer?
Sure. Well, it's a written report. All the home inspection companies in Charlotte, we're all governed by the Department of Insurance, the state licensure home inspection board. So we have laws and guidelines, and there's certain things. But it's going to be a home inspection report on all three. There's three mechanical systems of a house: plumbing, electrical. Let's see, plumbing, electrical.
HVAC.
Thank you, HVAC. I get on the spot, and I'm like,
HVAC.
and then structural. So we're going to check. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was like stage fright, but we're checking all those systems out to make sure everything's, working properly, running properly, draining properly. There's no leaks, that sort of thing. Also that there haven't been any alterations or additions without a permit, because that can lead to some problems.
We see that.
A lot of things like that. So basically you're going to get a written report. It's going to have a summary on it. And it's going to have all the systems broke down and all the structural systems broke down on the house and what we find, and summary items. Now we have a thing, and I think there's a couple of other inspectors that are doing this as well, where it's an auto-generated repair request, where you can actually go online and you can go through each item and accept, like, I can live with that.
Oh, I've seen this.
You seen it? Or we want that repaired, or we want a monetary compensation for that. Go through each one, and then immediately you can email it, print it, email it to the listing agent, and and this is Tyler's
So there's a little
area.
less talking back and forth. It's really just giving the components that are most important to that buyer that needs to be fixed. That's pretty cool.
And I'll let Tyler speak on this. People always ask me, well, what has to be fixed? What has to be fixed? Well, everything's
here we go.
negotiable. That has a lot to do, and Tyler alluded to it earlier. Supply and demand. Sometimes if it's a seller's market or a buyer's market, that can fluctuate in people's temperaments. I will say this: everything's negotiable except one thing: if there's a loan on the property, and that's termites. And Chris can probably back this up. If there's termites, you're not getting a loan on that property. If it has active termites, that's going to have to be treated
For sure.
because the bank is not going to loan money on a property with active termites, because. Then the reason being, most homeowners insurance doesn't cover termites. So, Chris, is loaning the money. He has to make sure that this asset is worth what they're loaning the money on, and that it's covered by insurance.
That's correct.
So that's why termites. But everything else is negotiable. Usually there's some form of compromise. Everybody goes through the items and they say, all right, I've got to have this, and this fixed, but I can live with that, and that. Because there's no perfect house.
No perfect house.
And then what would you say, just for our listeners, what's the general cost of just a basic home inspection?
Usually goes by square footage.
Okay.
But if you average everything, we have a computer thing. I think it's like $480.
Okay.
And that's termite and home inspection. But obviously, 1,500 square foot house is going to be a little less than a 6,000 square foot house.
Yeah. If you have to inspect more, then it's going to cost a little more.
Yeah, but I think industry average across the country is like between $400 and $500.
Perfect. That's what I'm looking for. And you said typically that would include the termite report, which is great.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people sell that separate and it may appear to come out a little higher. So,
Sure. And typically you're going to need a termite. You don't need a termite usually on a new home, or sometimes a condominium because it's included in but most of the time an existing home that there's going to be a loan on it. And it's the mortgage guys that
That's
are
right.
requiring it, which is smart. But their interests are aligned with the buyer's interest. I mean, they're the same.
And really, it just while we're talking on the topic, that the home appraisal, which really determines the value, is the value paying what it's worth? Does it, is it supported with local data? That appraiser is the ICE for the mortgage lender.
Right.
The mortgage lender doesn't really look at the home inspection. But if the appraiser goes in and sees a crack in the foundation or identifies that there's termite damage visually, then that loan is probably not going to close as is without it either being repaired or doing a special kind of loan called a renovation loan that would allow the buyer to repair it and build in the cost right into the loan.
Right.
We do quite a few renovation loans in cases like that because sometimes the seller doesn't have the money to fix.
Sure.
But the buyer says, I want this house, great location, it's below market price.
Great schools.
Great schools, whatever. How do I get this house? And I don't have $30,000 to fix the foundation or to remediate termites or mold or whatever.
Right.
So there are loans for that too.
Those loans can be a lot of fun for buyers if they have the flexibility to do that. They can do almost
Fun's not usually the word my buyers use. The end result, with the before and after picture is always wonderful. They forget to tell you that they're on the verge of divorce in the middle, right?
It's stressful.
So, all right. So, sort of
Sounds
one of the
like you've
things.
had some experience.
Just a few. That's right. What additional items that you, in terms of the home inspection process, you said we do the basic home inspection and then they can do a termite report. But I know that your company provides several other elements that you can include. So just why don't you, Preston, tell us a little bit about what some of those others are. So while we're on the topic of understanding the home inspection process.
Sure. And thanks, Chris. The basic home inspection would be the structural mechanical inspection.
Okay.
Like we talked about, the systems of the house. And this is the same for all companies. Additional or auxiliary inspection, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but that can or cannot, they're a little bit different, but can be included, is termite inspection. Radon testing.
Yes.
We do radon testing. That's becoming a big thing, and it's actually a big part of the real estate scene.
Just to make sure there's no radon gas emitted into your property, right?
Correct.
Which may not be healthy.
Yeah, could cause lung cancer.
Right.
Definitely. And then we also do well water. If it's on a well, you probably want to get that tested to make sure there's no bacteria, coliform bacteria, that sort of thing in there. We also do swimming pool inspections. I'm trying to think what else we do.
Do you dive in the water and check for cracks? Is that what you do?
When I was a younger man, but we do test it and test all there's a whole lot of different things. And there's different types of pools and different types of, not skimmers, but filters.
Systems. Yeah,
thank you.
whatever.
Thank you. But yeah, we test all that to see, what's going on with that and make recommendations accordingly. But yeah, we just try to help with all the systems that we can. If there's something that's a little beyond what we can do, or we suspect something, we'll recommend further evaluation. It's kind of like going to a general doctor. People always ask me, if I go to a general doctor and he says, you got an irregular heartbeat, he knows something's not quite right, but he's going to send you to a specialist.
That's right.
And that's sort of the way a home inspection is. We're like, you've got, 4 or 5 things here with your roof. There are issues. We're going to recommend a roofer come out, take a look at these, and further evaluate it.
Right.
It's kind of like going to a general doctor. He knows, he's going to check you out all over, or she, when I say.
That's right.
I'm sorry. But, if there's something irregular, they're going to send you to that specialist. They probably have an idea in their mind what it is, but they want to send you to somebody who does that type of work.
Who focuses solely on that.
Correct.
Like the roof
Makes
or the
sense.
foundation.
Correct.
Perfect.
Same type of thing.
So you have quite a variety of services that you provide. And really, at the end of the day, if they need your services, since we're really focusing on this topic, Preston, why don't you just give them your phone number real quick and your website so that somebody can reach out to you if they're in need of a home inspection?
Okay. It is 704-542-6575 or homeinspectioncarolina.com.
I probably could have done that myself, but I wanted you to get the airtime, so it's all good. One of the things that we want to talk about is understanding the difference between what we call a pre-inspection and then the traditional home inspection. And Tyler, you had mentioned to me as we were preparing for the show that the home buyer is the one that orders the home inspection.
Right.
Because they're trying to make sure
Typically, yeah.
that the house is in good shape before they say, yes, I'm going to buy this house. But a pre-inspection is actually done by who, Preston, or for who?
The seller.
The seller.
On the front end to try to eliminate any problems or surprises down
So
the
when
road.
would that be used? Why would a seller do a pre-inspection?
Well, just before they want to list, I think it's a huge advantage for sellers today because especially if these buyers are paying a premium for these homes, they're going to want to have a lot of things fixed. And if you've already addressed some of those items that they would have wanted fixed, I think it gives you a big advantage.
So a pre-inspection really is designed for anyone that's getting ready to sell their house to have Preston and his group come in before the buyers come along and make sure...
Save you some headache.
Right?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
There's aren't
And
issues.
since
You know what the
Tyler-
issues are before the buyer comes along.
Correct. And since Tyler's with Keller Williams, I'll back up with Gary Keller. He says that in one of his books, I think Shift, he's got a whole chapter in fireproofing the deal.
SHIFT, folks. That was shift.
Yeah, and what he's doing is trying to, you get everything worked out, and then the home inspection comes along, and oh my gosh, there's a $25,000
Right. Why be surprised by that?
Yeah. If you get that pre-inspection done on the front end, all right, it hurts, but now we can get multiple estimates. Maybe that $25,000 only $18,000.
And there's no contract deadline in your face. You've got as long as there's no time constraints on you, you've got some flexibility there, I think. I think it's a
the
good
problem is the problem, but if you have time, you can, maybe attack the problem in a little more sensible way.
So perfect. I think we actually could probably hit this topic a little bit more, but we have to really cut out for a quick break here. So again, you're listening to Reshair Radio, and we're talking with Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolina and Tyler DiPretero from...
Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group at Keller Williams.
There you go. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Did you know it has been reported that an estimated 80% of Americans have credit inaccuracies on their credit reports? Most people that have either inaccuracies or existing items that can be negotiated or adjusted do not know what their best score could be until they have found a new home or buying a new car or applying for a credit card. Then it's too late, and they have to accept a higher interest rate or lose the opportunity altogether. The time to work on improving your credit score is before you need it. Whether you have a 440, 640, or even a 740 FICO score, there is always room for improvement. The National Credit Care Team is comprised of individuals dedicated to helping the millions of consumers plagued by credit inaccuracies, errors, and fraud. It is our mission to help inform consumers and alleviate the stress of working with creditors and credit bureaus. Together, we can maximize your scores to get the best interest rates possible and save you money. Call now, 303-747-6390. That's 303-747-6390. Or visit us at www.nationalcreditcare.com.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. And again, our show is to empower, excite, and educate Charlotteans on all kinds of topics that are financial related, whether it's real estate, home inspections, selling, buying, you name it, insurance, investing. We've got all kinds of topics that we bring each and every week. And we've been listening here. If you've been listening, hopefully you have been. We've got Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolina here today, home inspector extraordinaire, and Tyler DiPretero, realtor from...
The Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group at Keller Williams.
There he goes. It just rolls right off his tongue. I'm gonna have to bounce around on that thing. It doesn't want to come out. But we've been talking about the home inspection process, what it is, why you would want to do one. And just before we took our last break, we introduced the concept of what we call a pre-inspection, which is really a home inspection that a seller would do before they put their house on the market to really give them an idea as to what's could be lurking under my crawl space behind my walls, so that they're prepared to sell that home smoothly, hopefully with less issues, etc. But there's some pros and cons to doing the pre-inspection. So, Preston, I'd like for you to really kind of break out maybe why someone, like, what are the real benefits of getting that pre-inspection done before the house goes on the market?
Well, the real benefits, like we said, are getting the cards on the table. I mean,
Okay.
the items are going to come up either way. But as Tyler alluded, now we have time. We're not under a deadline. Hey, we've got this problem. Let's get multiple bids on getting it fixed, because the other way.
Okay, so you got multiple bids, and when you're doing with multiple bids, it gives you a chance to shop.
Correct.
Yeah.
And check out references of all these folks. And
So you're
check
not
out-
rushed to get the repair done.
That's correct.
You can compete for a better price on your repairs.
That's correct. And let's say Tyler has two listings. One has had a pre-inspection, one hasn't had a pre-inspection. Buyer, all things else being equal, there's less risk for them to put down the due diligence money on the one that's been pre-inspected, because, if the one that hasn't been pre-inspected, there's a chance they could, run into a problem.
They don't always
The seller
know
doesn't
what's
wanna-
going on with the house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that so what you're really telling our listeners is that pre-inspection report can be made available to the buyer,
Right.
so that they know before they even put money
Correct.
down.
It can be used as a marketing tool.
Right. Hey, we
You
already
can
have
leave that on the counter when they come in. Hey, look, we've got it checked out for you.
Yeah, and it's
Right here.
transparency. I mean, it's
Right.
transparency.
It is.
Somebody, I walk into a house and they got the inspection report laying right there on the thing, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, the inspector didn't do them any favors either. I'm like, these guys are transparent. I mean, I like them. I mean, they're, warts and all, that I trust them.
That's right. At least they're revealing what's going on. So
To their knowledge, to the best of their knowledge.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. Absolutely.
I think the only con, and you can help me if I'm wrong, Preston, that someone would consider if you were to do a pre-inspection is that sometimes once an issue is revealed, you may have to reveal that on the contract in terms of disclosing, hey, we
Yes.
did find termites,
Yes.
or we did find, but honesty usually is the best
That's just
policy
being a
in my
good human
opinion.
It
being.
is.
That's right. So,
And it's going to come out either way.
yeah, it's going to be discovered by somebody, whether it's before you sell it or after. It will be discovered.
Now, there is another con. You want me to?
Oh yeah, this is your show, man.
Well, this is the elephant in the room, pre-inspections. Let's say Tyler, has a listing and, he smartly, talks the seller into, this might not be a bad idea. The con would be, and the seller would say, well, wait a minute. I get this inspection. I get all this stuff fixed. Then the buyer comes in with their inspector, finds a whole bunch of more stuff, and then I got to fix it again. Why am I having to fix it twice? I have to fix it once. And my response to that, and that's very true. A home inspection is a subjective thing. I mean, what I mean by that, two home inspectors go inspect the same house. Those reports are not going to be the same. It's not a true false or a pass. I mean, but here's my response to that is that if that same house had 4 items that were major, both inspectors should have found those.
Right.
But their list of 10, 15, 20 small items may be different depending on that inspector's, So my answer to that is, when we do pre-inspections, here's what we say. If another inspector comes in and finds something major that we missed, when I say major, over $1,000, we'll refund your money for the pre-inspection. But they're
Wow.
going to find some minor stuff that we missed, because I could go behind them, they could go behind me. Expect that. It's going to happen. What we're looking for here are major things that can make this deal go south.
Yes.
And we want to eliminate those. Rubbing doors, sticking window,
Come on.
that's not going to kill
Loose
the deal.
receptacles.
Yeah, it's not going to kill the deal. And those, they're going to be different. That second inspector is not going to come in there and say, this house is perfect. I can go behind any inspector, find a couple of small things they missed. Any inspector can come behind me and find some small things I missed. I think it's setting expectations in the fact that we're primarily worried about potentially big ticket deal things that could go south, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, all right. So I feel like we did a really good job at kind of breaking down the pre-inspection process. So I'll just kind of recap. We know in the case where somebody is buying a home, Tyler would help or guide the buyer to pick a home inspector of their choice. When you're working with a seller, you would also do the same and help the seller identify whether or not they wanted to do a pre-inspection. So in terms of where we're going to go next is really just talking about what I call the big report. Okay, so now let's just say Preston and his team have gone out and done the home inspection report. Typically, you're going to deliver the report electronically. Is that right?
Yeah, we promise it by the next morning.
Okay, you promise it by the next morning. Okay, so you
Good.
go out
That's very
there,
good.
you crawl under the house, you're up in the attic, you're taking pictures, doing all that you need to do. That gets back to the buyer or the seller within 7 days. So what are?
Within, a lot less.
I'm
than that.
sorry,
And we do
7 hours. That's what I meant to say.
we also do a visual. We go through all the pictures right there at the inspection, but the written
Okay.
report was the next morning. But if they're there, we show all the pictures right there and explain. They know what's going to be on the report.
Okay, so what would normally be the next step in terms of you communicating the home inspection report with the buyers? What sort of happens next?
So when I communicate with the buyers about the home inspection report, at this point, I would have already done my best to set their expectations for what's important and what is not as important.
Right.
Because a lot of times the reports can get filled up, many pages filled up with things that are very minor.
Rubbing doors, sticking windows.
Right, but that can still put some fear in a buyer's heart. So I try to focus on the 7 items based on the South Carolina contract that are serious. So I'll start from the ground up. So No environmental concerns. The structure to be sound. The
Okay.
plumbing to be functioning properly. The electrical systems to be functioning properly. The heating and cooling systems functioning properly. And the roof to be free of leaks. Anything outside of those 7 is really just cosmetic. Those are the major items that I try to get my buyers to focus on when submitting a repair request. Obviously, you can ask for whatever you want. The seller has the right to say no to whatever they want. But if they were to say no to, fixing a $20,000 foundation repair, then you've got some leeway to make it out of that contract.
I think Tyler is very,
Wow.
very smart in what he's doing. And that's what I suggest. I mean, there's a list of things, and you look at these things, and like you said, is one of the 7. I always say it's like a buffet, don't fill up on the potatoes and the
There you
rice.
go.
Go for the shrimp.
I love that. I'm going to steal that.
There's only so much space in my stomach. I got to get the high dollar stuff. But, I know that's a terrible analogy.
That's a good analogy. It works.
But the thing is, what I think, if you're the seller, they show you this list. My guy found all this stuff. I'm just asking for this.
Right.
Then that is a real olive branch gesture.
It is.
To look. I'm not trying to kill you here.
I'm not
but
nickel and diming
This
you.
is reasonable. I mean, certainly the buyer can. I want everything. But remember, if it's a seller's market like we know it is, and they got 8 other bids on this,
Hit the road. I'll get another buyer.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, the problem is, though, we've got these HGTV
Oh, Lord.
millennial buyers that expect the house to look like, it was just flipped and flopped, right? Or whatever you want to call it.
Flop and flip
Flopped,
or
flipped, and flopped, flipped,
flip-flops.
flopped,
Flip-flops,
whatever.
yeah.
But, so it is tricky sometimes when you're working with those new buyers, Tyler. It's just, like you said, sometimes it's about setting the expectation.
Yes.
So let me ask you this question. Does the seller always pay for those repairs?
They do not. They do not always pay for those repairs.
Okay, interesting. And then in terms of renegotiating, what would you say the typical strategy is in terms of how you land on what does need to be fixed? Is it monetary? Are they fixing it? Are there seller credits? Where does it normally land?
Well, it's usually one of 3 ways.
Okay.
You can take the house as is. Most people don't want to go that way. You can choose to renegotiate the terms of the contract. You can lower the sale price for the cost of those repairs, or you could ask for the seller to compensate by giving additional closing costs, put some money back in the buyer's pocket so they can do the repairs, or they can choose to walk away and try to get their earnest money back at that point.
And that happens, right?
It
I
does.
mean, sometimes we on our team, we get somebody pre-approved up front. They do all the underwriting. They find the house, they get excited, and then the home inspection report comes back, and then they end up walking away because there's something big
Damn
enough.
Home inspectors ruin
Yeah, and
everything.
the home
Ruining it all,
inspectors
Preston.
killed the deal again, Preston, man.
They come in with their crazy pants, then they ruin everything.
These
Man,
pants.
who do
Oh, I
they
wish
think
you
they
could
are?
see 'em.
So, but that's the whole point of what you said at the beginning, Preston, and is that you're there to protect that future home buyer.
And educate. You need to know what's going on with the home. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
huge investment. You don't just fly blind into that.
Yeah, and that's part of what we do too. Is it's I failed to mention that earlier, but I'm glad you brought it up, Tyler. We want to educate the people, show them where all their cutoffs are, show them where their filter sizes are. We get an owner's manual for our stove, for our microwave, but we don't get an owner's manual for the whole house.
Nope.
And that's part of
Or
what
your
we
children.
try to do is educate them because, they need to know where, hey, if we got a leak, where can we go cut the water off? Or if that breaker flips in the bathroom, where's the reset for it? That sort of thing.
People of my generation, millennials, we know little to nothing about that. So I know that's most of us, at least. I think that's a huge plus.
Yeah, we're not that generation, or at least I'm not. But we like working with that generation, so that's cool. It's all good.
Man,
so
they know how to use a computer, though.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
That's right. Get your emails out.
Yeah.
Fix your
Can you
Wi-Fi.
fix my phone?
So real quick here. So what happens if everybody we get through the home inspection process, everything gets negotiated out. Now we're the day before closing, you take your buyers out to the property and you discover they did not fix the repairs that they had agreed upon. What happens then, Tyler? Because this
Well,
never happens,
you
folks.
have a drink
It
and
does
then
happen,
roast.
believe it or not.
It does happen.
Surprisingly, more often than you think.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
And it's not always the sellers that didn't get it done. It could be the contractors that just skipped over it or
Okay.
chose to ignore it. Hopefully that's not the case. But you can choose to delay closing. As long
Okay.
as long as there's no time constraints pushing you to that contract deadline. If you can delay closing, I would say let's do that. Or you could go back to the seller and agree to have those repairs done post closing, and they would potentially
Something in writing.
keep that. Yeah, put something in writing, make an addendum, and then the seller makes a check out to the attorney, or it sits in the attorney's escrow account. And then after you say the repairs are good, then the attorney would disperse that money
Release
to
the money.
contractor.
Right.
And I would push for trying to get that reinspection as early as you can. I mean, I know it's really not your control what the seller does or what the seller's contractor does, but and it happens all the time. We're like doing the reinspection and closings that afternoon. I mean, it'd be great if it was like 3 days, but a lot of times it's not. Like, it's the contractor and the seller. I mean, we ultimately don't control what they do. I mean,
contractors are busy right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have labor shortage, we have supply shortage. Housing market's doing well, so it happens. So, well, we're going to take a quick break right here and come back for our very last segment. Again, we've got Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolina and Tyler DiPretero from the Stephen Cooley Realty Group at Keller Williams. Did I get it?
I'll take it.
You'll take it, something like that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is Chris Reshatar, your host of Reshair Radio. As a mortgage professional, we interact with several industry-related professionals, and we see the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I have a choice to select a closing attorney either to purchase or do a refinance, I choose John Ringer with Hutchins Law Firm. He is a legal professional and he covers commercial and residential transactions. More than just a closing attorney, John wants to be your attorney for life. He can provide you insights you need to make accurate and informed legal decisions. As a Charlotte native, John has witnessed the tremendous growth and development of our city and region. As a part of Hutchins Law Firm with more than a quarter century of experience and 400 years of collective combined legal experience, they have what you're looking for. They have offices in Charlotte, Fayetteville, Wilmington, and Columbia, South Carolina. Please give John a call if you need an attorney, the right attorney, at 980-275-9810. That's 980-275-9810. Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. We've been talking here with Tyler DiPretero from the
Stephen Cooley Real Estate Group at Keller Williams.
There you go. Man, you got that down.
And
how about that? And Preston Sandlin from
Home Inspection Carolina.
There we go. We got a pattern here. But we've been talking really about the home inspection process if you're getting ready to buy or sell, and really kind of how you deal with repair issues and how we sort of navigate the real estate transaction as a result. And Preston, you've really talked really a lot about sort of the benefits of doing the inspection beforehand, and even the process that buyers go through if there wasn't a pre-inspection done by the seller, and sort of all the components and how that impacts the closing timeline, et cetera. But in terms of sort of final words of wisdom, how early should they order the home inspection in the process if you have a buyer getting ready to buy a home?
Well, I would encourage you to do it usually within the first week of going under contract, as soon as you can. I know it's you're going to pay that money. It is one big risk assessment. But it's better to know these things up front and get an answer sooner rather than, like 2 weeks before closing, and then you find out all these things are going on. And I would get it done as soon as possible.
So the words are, get the home inspection done as soon as possible. What was your other word of wisdom for our listeners here today?
My other words of wisdom is just try to be reasonable. Understand that these are humans on both sides of the contract. We all make mistakes. I think most people are inherently good. Try to put yourself in the other person's shoes for just a moment and understand what they are asking or what you are asking for. Just try to be reasonable. That's my final word of wisdom.
Okay.
Good
I can
words,
remember
good
when,
words.
I had bought a house, the house before the one I'm living in now. And actually it was when I was selling, correct me. Sorry about that. But when I was selling my home, the home inspection was provided to us. We got the list of things that we needed to repair. And we were feverishly trying to get everything done by the closing date, of course, and trying to move out and clean and et cetera, right? Doing all the things you need to do to get out of the house. And so and some of the items I was doing myself because they weren't major items. Like, one of them was just like the deck board railing needed to be nailed down, things like that. So the buyers were coming over to the house, and I'm like literally finishing things up as we speak. And the two buyers and the realtor came in, and our realtor was there, and my wife was there, and I'm like, got my hammer out. I'm still like working, right?
Are you fixing things? Or are you entering negotiations?
Literally, they sat and talked for an hour and a half, and then left. And so it was just like when you said kind of giving the benefit of the doubt, right? Being reasonable.
Being considerate.
I thought my buyers were too considerate. Like they didn't even ask if we had done the things on the list. They didn't look. They didn't check. And they're super nice people. Even now to this day, my family is kind of friends with them. My son mows their lawn, that kind of thing.
There you go.
And just great people. So that was an example where somebody was overly honest and really trusted what we were doing, but that's not always the case.
Unfortunately, it's not.
It's not always the case.
I've seen it all. I mean, I've seen people that I want everything on that list.
Right.
And then I've seen other people that were totally cool
That's
about
fine.
it.
Don't have to fix anything.
And I've seen, the sellers on their end. I'm not fixing a thing. I already gave them a deal on this. I'm not fixing nothing. Or in vice versa, that I've seen sellers that fix everything, go beyond and tell them about the neighbors and everything else. Cause they're just that. But I think that the best way is, like Tyler said, somewhere in the middle. Say, it's reasonable. I can live with this, and this. I can fix that myself. That's okay. But I really got to have this fixed.
Yeah.
Then you're extending the olive branch. You're saying you're giving them some value, and you're asking for some value.
I mean, I try to only do business where it results in a win-win.
Right.
Sometimes that's not always the case, but if I can do my best to make both parties happy, that's usually what I try to do. Obviously, I represent only one side, but I try to see it from the other person's perspective to help make a compromise happen.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
Used to at the closing, I guess it's different now with Dodd-Frank, but used to you had to all sit down at the closing table together. And
Oh, it could be pretty tense in
we
there.
really
sometimes.
don't want
Not
that,
so much
that
anymore.
tense,
Yeah.
But now it's different, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Different times, I think.
It is definitely so. Well, while we're just sort of wrapping up this topic here, let me just give you my number. If you need Tyler to help you buy or sell real estate, or anyone on his team that he works under, or you need a home inspection with Preston, my number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. Just text me. I need Tyler. I need Preston. We'll get you connected. And then, Preston, why don't you also give them your number? You can actually contact Preston directly since he is an expert contributor. We'll let him use his number.
Oh, sure. 704-542-6575, 704-542-6575.
Perfect. So we've got a few more minutes here, and you've brought with you a fall maintenance checklist, Preston. Why don't you give us some of the highlights of your fall maintenance checklist here?
Sure. And you can, if anybody, the listeners want to get this, they can go to homeinspectioncarolina.com and click under resources, and you can download this list and print it out, use it, whatever you like. But hopefully it'll be helpful for the fall.
If you are looking for a honey-do list for the weekend, stay tuned because we've got it for you.
Just ruined my thing.
That's right.
Everybody no. I'm saying everybody liked me up until the end. Like, dang, man, you ruined my weekend there, Chris.
There you go.
My wife has a honey-do list on me now. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead.
Well, a couple of things. Ceiling fans. You want to reverse your ceiling fans. In the summer, you want those blowing down. Basically, where the sheer wind is coming down because it creates a wind chill effect. In the winter, you want them pulling up and pushing up towards the ceiling because it recirculates the
heat.
air.
Wow.
Right,
Heat.
brings the heat down.
Exactly, and there's a natural stack effect you're taking advantage of, and you're not fighting it. So yeah, you want to do that. It'll lower your economic cost and lower your bill and make your house more comfortable. There's a whole bunch on here, but I want to skip down to smoke detectors. Good time to go change the batteries in those smoke and carbon monoxide detectors because when the battery goes bad, 2 or 3 in the morning. Never any other time.
It does.
When
It just happened to me.
beep,
It just happened to me a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it always happens at 2, 3 in the morning. It never happens. So save yourself some sleep and change those batteries now. Definitely don't go chintzy on the batteries either. Get the best batteries you can get in a ladder and change them all out. A couple other things. I would recommend flushing out your water heater. If it's in the garage, you can just hook a hose up to the bottom. There's actually what looks like a spigot on the bottom of your water heater and run that hose out. When you first turn it on, it turns on just like a spigot. The water that comes out will be a little bit dirty at first because it's the sediment that settles in the bottom of the water heater. And then it'll go clear. Then turn it off, make sure it's tight. And what you've done is clean the sediment out of your water heater, which will prolong the life of it, make it last longer. Now, this gets a lot trickier, though, if your water heater's up in the attic or somewhere like
Yeah.
that.
True.
You want to make sure that
Got a long hose.
I don't want anybody to get in trouble. And most of them have a catch pan, but we're not 100% sure that catch pan is all hooked up. We don't want water coming through the ceiling. You may want to go up with a 5-gallon bucket and just run it into that. I mean, it won't take long. You're just running it till it's clear, and then make sure you tighten it back up. But that's a good one.
Perfect.
Let's see. What else have we got? Obviously, filters. Change all your filters. I recommend doing that regularly. Know all the sizes of your filters, and I take pictures of them and keep them on my phone, because usually most houses have 3 or 4 different sizes. And you're at Lowe's or Home Depot, and you're like, I need to buy filters. And, of course, I always buy the wrong – I used to before I took the picture. And I go back to my phone, what size are they, and go ahead and buy them by the box full. Most filters are 30 to 60 days, 30, 90 days, depending on the quality of the filter. Filters are an inexpensive investment that reduces allergies, your life expectancy of your furnace. I mean, change your filters regularly.
Especially this time of the year, as things are starting to cool down, you're running that heat, the air is dry, and if it's not clean air, it can affect you more.
Yeah, and I'm a pet person. I love dogs and cats, but if you got dogs and cats, you're gonna have to change your filter even more regularly, because you have like a lot of hair and fur and that sort of thing. Let's see. Obviously, clean your gutters.
Outdoors.
That's a big one. You might have to do it multiple times, or you may want to wait. The leaves in our area haven't completely fell yet. I think up in the mountains they have. We probably got another 2 or 3 weeks. But you definitely I'm not going to tell you not to clean your gutters now. I mean, the more the better, but you're definitely going to have to clean them, when the end of the season where the leaves come down. Be careful with this, because, it's dangerous to get on your roof.
It is.
What I recommend, there's a lot of backpack blowers out there that have attachments. I have one of mine where it's like 4 or 5 sections, and then it has a hook.
Like a candy cane hook.
Exactly. And I, can blow them out. You don't want to wear nice clothes when you do this, because leaves are
Dirt's everywhere.
Yeah, but I'd rather have a mess than fall off a roof. I can clean up a mess. I can't fix broken bones myself, but I can fix a mess. But yeah, just go along, clean them out, get a bucket, clean those out. But you don't want the water to be impeded as it drains, because it can back up onto your roof and create
even
problems.
drip down the back of your walls and get moisture in your house.
Great problems that you would find later.
Yeah, the fascia and the soffit board and the rake board, all kinds of stuff. And we see that a lot. And, I can just tell you, people hadn't cleaned their gutters in like 4 years.
Right.
They'd be better off not even having gutters, because they're just
because it would just go right off the house and in the ground. So, yeah, it makes sense. Well, we've got just about a minute or so left here before we need to take a quick break. If you want to get the rest of this fall maintenance honeydew checklist, you can get it from your friends at Home Inspection Carolina on the homeinspectioncarolina.com under the resources tab. Did I say that right?
Yep, you did.
All right, great. So there's all kinds of good stuff here to kind of protect your home and make sure you're protecting your investment. We'll wrap up the show with just really thanking our guest, Tyler DiPretero. Tyler, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I understand that for our listeners today, you've got a home warranty offer. Would you like to briefly tell our listeners about that?
Sure. So for anyone who calls in within the next 7 days and references Reshair Radio, I will purchase a home warranty with you if you choose to buy with me.
There you go. $500 savings for a future buyer seller. That sounds great. And then we'll thank you, Preston, for being on the show. Anything else you want to part with here today?
No, just have a good weekend.
And if you need a home inspection, call Preston.
All right, yeah. Definitely.
Right? So it's been great to have you guys on the show as always, and we hope our listeners have enjoyed the show. We hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next week on Reshair Radio, 730 ESPN at 10 a.m. Signing off. Have a great week.
Sports fans know that the key to winning the big game is going in prepared. Right now, houses are selling fast. So if you're in the market for a new home purchase, don't just be prepared, be Movement Mortgage prepared. Charlotte's leading mortgage lender, Chris Reshair at Movement Mortgage, will tee you up with a free, fully underwritten, upfront pre-approval. Shop for the home of your dreams, already backed by an upfront pre-approval at Movement Mortgage. Call Chris today at 704-277-4463 or find Chris at www.themortgagegenius.com. Go into the game prepared with Chris Reshair of Movement Mortgage.
This is Chris Reshair, your host of Reshair Radio. As a mortgage professional, we interact with several industry-related professionals, and we see the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I have a choice to select a closing attorney either to purchase or do a refinance, I choose John Ringer with Hutchins Law Firm. He is a legal professional and he covers commercial and residential transactions. More than just a closing attorney, John wants to be your attorney for life. He can provide you insights you need to make accurate and informed legal decisions. As a Charlotte native, John has witnessed the tremendous growth and development of our city and region. As a part of Hutchins Law Firm with more than a quarter century of experience and 400 years of collective combined legal experience, they have what you're looking for. They have offices in Charlotte, Fayetteville, Wilmington, and Columbia, South Carolina. Please give John a call if you need an attorney, the right attorney, at 980-275-9810. That's 980-275-9810.
You've been listening to Reshair with Chris Reshatar, a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with Movement Mortgage, equal housing lender. Originator license number 117266. Learn more online at themortgagegenius.com.